Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this live stream of the British GT Esports Championship Round 2 from the wonderful Jonathan Palmer-owned Snetterton 300 circuit. Can you believe it has been a week since we were at Oulton Park, and now we travel to the other end of the country for our second race of the championship. My name is Paul Jeffrey, and I am delighted once again to have alongside me in the virtual commentary box, respecting social distancing, of course, Mr. David Addison.
Paul, good evening, everybody. It is going to be another fantastic hour, that is for sure. I get the feeling that a few lessons have been learnt after last week. I suspect that a number of drivers have realised how you do sim racing and how you don't, how you rejoin after an incident and how you don't. We've also got to factor in ballast. We've got to factor in, of course, yet another new circuit and this almost paperclip style infield as the circuit loops its way around. Snetterton has become a really interesting, much longer lap at nearly 3 miles long, because you've got fast flowing bits, you've got some really tight and twisty bits, and it's going to be really interesting yet again to see who comes out on top, not just in terms of the driver, Paul, but the brand, the type of car, both in GT3 and GT4, because with ballast, with some new drivers, of course, in GT4, 10 new qualifiers, it's wide open, certainly in the GT4 battle.
Absolutely it is. Exactly as you say, from last time, we've got returning GT3 entry list. And David, if we could just have a quick look at who it is that we're running in GT3 today.
Tom Canning, GT4 champion of years past, is one to watch. So is Ben Green. Andrew Howard, I don't think, has made it to the server. Sam Neary was really quick at Oulton Park. And, of course, Angus Fender won there after a penalty for James Baldwin. But he's now got 30 kilos of extra ballast. James Baldwin, vanquished at Oulton. Pole position here. 15 kilos of ballast. Welcome Alex Buncombe. His brother Chris helps run Team Rocket RJN, and Alex is a Blancpain Endurance Series champion. He's one to watch. You've got Adam Morgan, British Touring Car race winner. Liam McNeely for the Fox Motorsport McLaren team making his debut, and Gus Burton, another Ginetta graduate with the Century BMW. He too was unlucky at Oulton Park. Andrew Watson, 7th at Oulton. Leo Machitsky making his debut. Couldn't get to the Oulton round, but he's here. Ron Ratcliffe, question mark over him, because where he lives, currently in the grip of bad weather, and his internet has gone the way of a you-know-what. So he might or he might not get to the grid, we'll see. Bobby Trundley didn't do a bad job at all at Oulton Park. The Team Brit driver, the autistic driver. Sandy Mitchell got involved in a few scrapes, as did Jack Lemmer. Jody Fannin played it safe, got 3rd position at Oulton Park, and he's got 10 kilos of extra weight. Morgan Short, one to watch. Michael O'Brien, really quick, but again, very unlucky at Oulton. And Ross Gunn takes over Johnny Adams, Aston Martin, and Ross, another very, very competitive driver, one to watch. And GT4, Paul, just as competitive.
Yep, just as competitive. 10 top championship, 10 runners returning, and 10 new qualified drivers. Chris Hoke for the Audi R8 LMS is atop of the list, alongside Manuel Rodriguez for the very famous Team Red Line. Jesus Cecilia, a privateer in a KTM. Be interesting to see how the little KTM Expo gets on in this race. Bit anonymous last time out, alongside Michael Tauscher in the BMW M4 GT4. Mortis Lorna returns again for Door Esports, once again in the McLaren 570S. Alexander Doricott in the Chevrolet Camaro, another car that should go well here at the Snetterton 300 circuit. Sam Holloway phase sim racing in the Mercedes. Jack McIntyre for the Zancho Rocket Sim Sport team in the Porsche 718 Cayman. Igor Orognikov for Light Lada Sport in the KTM. Samir Abrami as well, a returning SRO Esports champion and a very fast driver indeed. The hardest sim racing surname in the world, Michael Kondaxioglu in the Alpine A110, is a new face in the race today. Thank you, David. Nils Naujoks, who finished 3rd last time out in carries, 10 kilograms of success ballast, joins us once again with Florian Hasser, George Boothby, Lee King McGee, another new name in the server today. Ivan Shematinsky, Arnaud Lacombe, an incredibly talented Frenchman for Thrustmaster Racing, who we're piloting the Aston Martin. Luca Burke, who won last time out and for his troubles gets 30 kilograms of success ballast, with Chris Dade for Team ACR in another beautiful Chevrolet, and the second of our ballast wearers for this weekend, 15 for Maciej Malolaski in the Hunkoff Racing Alpine A110. So, David, another both real and virtual counterpart drivers, incredible field for Snetterton.
What I'm looking forward to seeing in GT4 is Jesus Cecilia, because he qualified for Oulton and then didn't get to the race because he wasn't able to join the ping check. But he was the man that won the SRO European Championship last year for the sim racers, so certainly he's very accomplished indeed. Now, as far as the championship is concerned, GT3 looks like this. Angus Fender then leads from James Baldwin and Jody Fannin. Of course, it's based on the results of Oulton Park, so Ben Green, who was in the wars quite a bit, is fourth ahead of Sam Neary, and Martin Short kept out of trouble to be sixth ahead of Andrew Watson. Tom Canning, who seems to be a bit of a target for everybody, Bobby Trundley, and Johnny Adam, who got drilled late race, didn't he, by a couple of people. Jack Lemmer yet to score, so too Sandy Mitchell and Gus Burton and Adam Morgan and Ryan Ratcliffe and Michael O'Brien. Jenson Button busy with Formula 1 duties this weekend. Jamie Stanley gives up his seat for Liam McNeely. Andrew Howard didn't make it, and sadly again missing Matt Cowley. But as I say, we've got the likes of Alex Buncombe, Liam Machitsky, Ross Gunn coming in, so GT3 is going to be very competitive. Now, what about GT4? Luca Burke, Paul, the man to beat.
Yep, Luca Burke, the man to beat, but with 30 kilograms on board, that's going to be a difficult weekend here at Snetterton for him. Maciej Malinowski had a great, if slightly understated, race last time out to finish in second place. Same points as in GT3, of course, the same point structure, 25, 18, 15. Nils Naujoks, Jack McIntyre and Chris Hockey in for 3, 4, 5. Sixth position, Maxime Batafoulier with 8 points to his good. Ivan Shematinsky is 7th. Michael Kondaksioglu, I apologise to Michael, I actually thought he was a new name, but he finished 8th last time out. Samir Abrami was 9th, and the last of our point scorers was Eamon Murphy for the Yas Heat Janetta G55 team. So they're the drivers that finished in the top 10. But David, as you mentioned right at the top of the show, we've got 10 new drivers that qualified in the hot lap competition between last Sunday and today. So it's going to be fascinating to see if they can get up in the mix as well and start getting some points on the board.
Because if they do, then they can automatically qualify, can't they, for the next round. So, yes, they need to keep out of trouble. That's going to be key to all of this. They need to be in that top 10. Just going back to GT3, if I called Morgan short, Martin, apologies, old habits die hard. Martin was a mainstay of the championship for many, many seasons, and not just as a driver, but as a team principal as well through Roll Centre. Morgan, who's done a little bit of club-level racing, is representing Roll Centre with the McLaren, and will be one to watch. Now, we've had qualifying. It's the usual format of the two grids, so GT3 goes ahead of GT4. Perfect weather conditions for this second round of the championship. Bear in mind, we mentioned the ballast, but you've also got that mandatory pit stop to factor in as well. The pit stop, they have to add at least 1 litre of fuel. That's the minimum, and they can, if they so desire, change tyres, and that pit window is between 25 and 35 minutes. Points awarded to the top 10 only. And the ballast we're talking about is for individual races. It's not cumulative. So the most you'll ever carry is going to be 30 kilos. You don't keep adding to that and end up with a very heavy car. It's a maximum of 30. It resets race after race after race. So take a pin, take the entry list and stick one into the other, and you might find a winner, because again, it's going to be wide open, I suspect. Although yet again, James Baldwin, who came back into real world racing by winning the world's fastest gamer, has proved his ability, Paul, by being on pole position. But he didn't have it all his own way at Oulton, did he? No, James Baldwin was the surprise, I think, for me at Oulton Park. He crossed the line in first place, but ended up being dropped down a second after the race for an investigation. But he didn't have the speed I expected him to have. I kind of thought Baldwin would run away from it, but Angus Fender, fantastic job at the front of the field to hold up the McLaren driver for the majority of the race. And Snetterton, David, is about as different a circuit from Oulton Park as you could possibly wish to imagine. So it's going to be really interesting for me, I think, to see, and again, I think you mentioned this at the top of the show, the difference in cars. Well, it's an all McLaren front row look, because you've got James Baldwin and Michael O'Brien lining up with Sandy Mitchell on the second row, and there is Angus Fender, the round one winner for company. Alex Buncombe, one to watch, former Bentley boy, former Nissan driver. He starts 5th, and there is Ross Gunn, 6th. So 2 newcomers on the third row of the grid ahead of Bobby Trundley, and then it should be Andrew Watson next, but I think we've had another slight shuffle around of the grid, because there you've got Morgan Short lining up next. Then you've got Andrew Watson. The next car on the grid is that of Jody Fannin. Then you've got Ben Green ahead of Tom Canning. Then you should get 77 for Jack Lemmer and 8 of Sam Neary. Adam Morgan's Mercedes next, and the BMW you'll see alongside him is that of Gus Burton. And that then is just ahead of the Liam McNeely McLaren, and it should be Leo Machitsky next, but there is a gap where Leo is not. So, as I say, there's been a little bit more shuffling with Morgan Short taking the place that Bobby Trundley would have had on the grid. However, that's the GT3 grid. Let's have a look at GT4.
Well, in GT4, Hazer Cecilia makes up for missing last time out and puts the little KTM on pole position. Boothby in second place for the bright pink Aston Martin, just ahead of Michael Kondaksioglu, 8th in the championship, 3rd on the grid, and that championship leader, no, Jack Mack, ahead of championship leader in 5th place, Luca Burke. Nils Naujoks in the ever-present and ominous BMW lines up alongside him. Hollenby in a Mercedes, one of the fastest Mercedes in the field today, ahead of Mortis Lorna in the McLaren. Another Alpine A10, doing really well are the Alpines in 11th position. Alongside that car is Florian Hasser in the McLaren, with the first of the big, beautiful Chevrolets for Chris McDade. Ora Gorodnikov in the KTM is 30th on the grid. Samir Ibrahim in P3 with 31. Chris Hoke in 32nd position, ahead of another one of the beautiful Chevrolets, Alexander Doricott in 33rd. Ivan Shematinsky in 34th position for Mercedes-Benz. Michael Tauscher in 35th. A newbie, Lee King McGee in the Ginetta, all Ginetta back row, alongside Rodriguez rounding out the field. And the weather, David, correct me if I'm wrong, looking a little bit overcast on that shot.
Does a bit, doesn't it? I was thinking earlier how nice the weather was looking, but there it could be a little bit grim and a bit inclement come the end of the hour, which would be another test for them. But I think we're just about set to go, and ideally they've got to get themselves through those first 4 or 5 corners without the same mayhem we got at Oulton Park, and then we can start to really enjoy the race ahead of us. 0% chance of rain, I'm advised, so people have their appetites whetted for drama, but it is going to be a dry race according to the in-game weather forecast, so don't hold us to that, but that's what the weather forecast is saying. So is James Baldwin going to get away and build a gap, or is Angus Fender up from the second row of the grid, who has done quite a bit of sim racing himself before he came into Ginetta racing in the real world? Is he going to be able to go with him? And of course, how much difference is, first of all, 30 kilos of weight going to make for the Oulton Park class winners? And indeed, in the case of Fender and Baldwin, how much of a difference will that difference of 15 kilograms between the two of them make? Is it still going to be advantage Baldwin, even though he's got the heavier car?
Well, actually, this is something that's really interesting. With the Snetterton 300 circuit, we've got 2 significantly long straights. So you're going to be carrying that weight all the way down. You're going to be braking that weight. You're going to be accelerating that weight. In a Coram Bend, that's a massive long radius right-hander. There's a lot of heavy acceleration zones from tight corners. So I think Snetterton is arguably one of the least favourable circuits to be carrying some additional weight in the car, especially when the field, at the front of the grid at least, is so closely compacted as this. So I really expect to see, although Baldwin's done a sterling job to get that car up on a pole position, I think this is a good opportunity for the likes of O'Brien and Mitchell and Fender as well, although he is our race 1 winner from last time, to score a big result. And with the championship points, David, being so close in their structure, and the championship being a relatively short one, this could be quite a definitive event in terms of mixing up the running order come the end of the race.
I think you're right. I mean, top 10 only score points. Yeah. You've got to keep out of trouble. You've got to bank. So as the cars are about to be released, we are set to go racing. You can see the split grids there with the GT3 drivers ahead of the GT4. So away they go now. The clock will start at the end of this formation lap when we go racing for real. And James Baldwin, you've got to say, from pole position, and even though he's got weight, more weight than Oulton Park, he's certainly ahead of his main rival with a heavier car. He's very well placed to take this win. I wonder whether GT4 might be even more competitive than GT3 this time, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, GT4, we saw some incredibly close racing. It's a bit of a, I think I'm fair to say, it was a bit of a survival game in GT3. There was pockets of outstanding racecraft, and there was also a lot more trying to avoid problems lapping through traffic and racing in close proximity to each other. Where GT4, obviously, these drivers are esport drivers, they are sim racers, they very much experienced in this kind of world, so that racing is always going to be intense. Snetterton's a track you can overtake on. A GT4 is the kind of car that you can get your elbows out and rub shoulders with as well, so keep his eye on both categories because this is going to be fantastic. And David, I've just heard through our ear that Leo Machitsky has made it in, but will be starting from pit road.
Okay, well the good news is, as you say, that he is there, so it's going to be interesting to see what progress is made, because of course by starting from the pits you've got to go after the GT4 contingent, so you're going to be right at the back, so it's going to be a very, very busy few laps. But the argument is, of course, that you save yourself a lap of fuel by doing it this way, and also you're behind all the dramas rather than in them.
There's a lot to be said for that, and Leo Machitsky as well is an accomplished sim racer, somebody who spends a lot of time in he's got his own virtual race, well not virtual, it's real, sim racing cockpit in his man cave at home, so he knows what he's doing in this kind of space. So it'll be an interesting one to watch, how the Barwell driver makes his way up through the running order. I think despite being disadvantaged, he's one that could score a decent result come checkered flag.
Well, let's find out in a moment or two then who is going to come out on top of this second round of the British GT Esports Championship. Others to keep an eye on, of course, starting a bit further back on the grid. Adam Morgan, the British Touring Car Championship regular, and although he won't be racing in British GT, his family team Sicily Motorsport will be in GT4, so there is another good link between the two championships in that respect. And Adam also got roughed up rather at Oulton Park. Let's see how he fares when we go green here. You've got there the back end of GT3 on the right hand shot going down towards the S's, and GT4 coming into sight now with that front row of the grid. Jesus Cecilia, the Spanish driver in the KTM, running off the road, which isn't encouraging on the formation lap, and now he's actually getting swamped by the traffic. So the GT4 contingent looking like they've gone racing. Cecilia needs to get himself back onto his pole position, because that little error means that he's dropped to effectively the second row. It's all a bit untidy in GT4 right now, isn't it?
It is indeed. The pressure already ramping up before we even get the green flag, which bodes well for this next 60 minutes, I think.
Now Cecilia's got himself on the wrong side of the grid. Anyway, he's back to at least the front row of GT4. However, keep an eye to that on the inset shot. GT3 is about to go racing, because as the cars now power their way up towards the timing line on board with Michael O'Brien, round 2 of the British GT Esports Championship is about to get underway. James Baldwin on pole position. His teammate Michael O'Brien is alongside him, and the lights will go green any second now to get the race underway. It is blast off, and a good start by Baldwin. Angus Fender is on his toes as well, trying to get the BMW through a gap that's not BMW sized, and round the outside Michael O'Brien tries to go for glory. Baldwin will lead as they come out of Riches for the first time up towards the Wilson hairpin. Michael O'Brien second, trying to cover off there. Right up behind him Sandy Mitchell, who gets involved with Angus Fender, and the championship leader spins. So too does Mitchell. Morgan Short was involved in that. I think there's also Bobby Trundley possibly involved, and so the mayhem kicks off at turn 2.
Oh, incredible scenes here in the race. Unbelievable. Our race leader, James Baldwin, facing the wrong direction. Contact further down the field as well. And this is exactly what we did not want to see happen at this stage in the race. Mixing up the running order significantly, and a typical Snetterton accident, unfortunately. A little bit of drama as well in the picture-in-picture in GT4. So everywhere you look, David, we've got cars trading paint, trying to find a little bit of real estate. And the upshot is Michael O'Brien from Alex Buncombe is our top 2.
Absolutely right. So it is O'Brien ahead of Buncombe, and James Baldwin delayed at Wilson down in third. Plus, of course, he's got the heavier car, so he's struggling. But Angus Fender turned into that spin. Where does that drop him to? Can he rejoin? Can he recover from there to score meaningful points as the 3 McLarens then dive down through the S's, the Brundle-Nelson sequence? You've got Andrew Watson going great guns in 4th place, trying to reel them in. And meantime, look at what's going on in GT4. What a battle!
Absolutely sensational scenes in these opening laps while the cars are heavy with fuel, the tyres and brakes are a little bit cold. This is your best opportunity to start climbing up through the field, and don't our drivers know it? Too wide at every stage of the racetrack. But look, in the main screen, this is a McLaren train for 1, 2, 3. This is anybody's at this stage in the race, and James Baldwin, who we suggested is a potential race winning, has got to fight forward. Looks to the outside, David. Can he find a way past?
Not there, I don't think. Let's see as the cars now accelerate their way up towards the Wilson hairpin. Off the road goes Alex Buncombe, and he's way in the weeds there. Baldwin second. Andrew Watson is going to grab third. Ben Green goes fourth. Alex Buncombe gets the car back onto the road, and so what was a 1-2-3 for Team Rocket RJN, the Jensen Button Bob Neville team, now becomes a 1-2 as you saw Alex Buncombe go off the road. Baldwin made his move, that just unsettled Buncombe enough. Right, so there were 3, there are now 2. And you can see what's going on behind as Sam Neary tries to find a way up through the traffic as well. They dive their way down through Agostini, and the Lamborghini on the inside of Jack Lemmer just hangs on to the place.
Yeah, fantastic close racing. Our drivers have learnt their lessons from last time out at Oulton Park. There's a full race of experience for the vast majority of these racers, and it's starting to show already, despite the fisticuffs of the opening lap, which unfortunately is to be expected. In general, the racecraft that we've seen so far in these opening moments has been very, very strong. As we look at Ross Gunn in the Beach Dean Aston Martin, 16th position is Ross Gunn at the moment, so got a lot of work to do to make his way through this GT4 traffic.
Yeah, he was another one delayed, I think, on that first lap, wasn't he? Because he did qualify 6th, so he's trying to make his way back through. Now, Angus Fender there, just managing to move himself up the order as well, carving his way through the GT4 traffic. At the end of lap 1, Angus Fender was down in 27th place, and look, he's going through the GT4 cars here like a hot knife through butter. Ashish Matilovsky is behind him, having just lost out, and Gus Burton in 57th Century BMW is another one, trying to get himself up through the traffic. GT4 led by, at the moment, George Boothby from Jack McIntyre, and there, forced out wide, Moritz Lerner in the number 20 McLaren.
Fantastic stuff. I do feel so sorry for Fender at this stage in the race, our championship leader, carrying the most weight as well in the BMW that's not necessarily that convenient to drive around this circuit, and now he's had the contact and got to find his way through a heavily battling contingent of GT4 cars. So dangerous time for Angus Fender at the moment, but he'll know he needs to keep his composure, needs to get a wiggle on to work up the field, but points are a long way away for Angus Fender at the moment.
Now, Ross Gunn, out of the points anyway, has been given a drive-through. That's an in-game drive-through, so I can only imagine that's for track limit abusers. There you see, diving to the inside line and getting a bit of a tap in the tail, Leo Machitsky, and more drama because around goes the Chris McDade Chevrolet Camaro there. He gets himself back in the race, but GT3 on GT4. Leo Machitsky, remember, from the pit lane. But what a battle pack here as they carve their way through the infield. Here's a Cecilia trying to get himself up the order, but every corner there's going to be another shuffle, I think, within the GT4 battle. Drive-through penalties now being given. Alex Buncombe gets one as off the road goes the BMW, and another is to Ross Gunn. So that is the reason for the drive-throughs. Jump start, Alex Buncombe and Ross Gunn.
That's a shame for Buncombe, running in 5th position after his off-track earlier in the race. Meanwhile, James Baldwin now starting to get his head down and make inroads to Michael O'Brien ahead of him. Baldwin, of course, as we've mentioned many times before, a former world's fastest gamer, so cut his teeth, so to speak, in virtual motor racing alongside his real-world commitments for the the Rocket RJN McLaren team, in which he's driving today, and Baldwin looks like the man on the move. But look at the gap, David, between these front two cars, miles ahead of the chasing pack, even so early in the race.
But look who's got themselves up into 3rd place. Jody Fannin, like he did at Oulton Park, keeps out of trouble, flies under the radar, and there he is in 3rd as Gus Burton makes a mess of the approach to the old Russell corner and loses out as Jack Lemmer goes around the outside of him. So Jack Lemmer, son of Mark Lemmer, the Barwell Motorsport boss, gains a place. Got another car going Bush coming out of Russell as well there. Right, now you've seen Alex Buncombe serve the drive-through. Ross Gunn has yet to serve his, so that's going to drop Buncombe down to 13th place. And what progress of Angus Fender? He's up to 15th now, so he really is charging.
Yeah, fantastic from Angus Fender. That'll be 14th as well once Ross Gunn has been down pit road. And looking at the GT4 battle for a moment, we've had a bit of a shuffle around there. Boothby is our race leader. In 2nd position in GT4 is Jack McIntyre, and then Niels Naujoks in 3rd place. So our pole position, Hazer Cecilia, has had some incidents in the early in the race and has dropped down the running order. So Cecilia making his debut in the championship, missed round 1 despite being 2nd quickest in the qualification process. So another one to keep our eye on as we look at Jack McIntyre in the beautiful Porsche Cayman 718 at this moment in time. But GT4 turned into a right royal battle.
As ever it does, really. And the good thing about GT4 is the variety, isn't it? And remember, it's the top 2 qualifiers per brand here. So up the inside there goes Leo Machitsky in the background. So he's throwing caution to the wind here, isn't he? Throwing the car up the inside of the GT4 brigade as he makes his way now on to the Bentley straight, and you can see the speed differential here between GT4 and GT3, but Leo Machitsky is scything his way up through the traffic. So for the lead of the race, it remains this battle between Michael O'Brien and James Baldwin. Andrew Watson, who was well placed early on, he of course another one that's dropped way back into 12th spot. So it's almost a handicap race element here, as lots of the quick drivers delayed on the opening lap try to fight back. GT4, Boothby ahead of McIntyre, ahead of Naujoks, as Paul was saying. There is Jack McIntyre. Naujoks, in the meantime, is coming under attack for his third place, isn't he?
It is. This is really starting to grow into quite an exciting race indeed. Kondaksioglu in 8th position in the championship standings was 3rd on the grid in qualification, and now he's putting the known star Nils Naujoks under pressure. And a replay of the start, David.
So there's drama going through turn 1 within GT4. 92, Maciej Malinowski getting involved, as you saw, with the Mercedes. So that's why Malinowski has dropped way down the order, because of course he was second in GT4 at Oulton Park. Right, now Naujoks, with 10 kilos of weight, has got Kondaksioglu right up behind him. The Alpine, really pretty looking car that, giving the BMW a tough time.
Yeah, this just goes to show, doesn't it, how weight can have an effect. Nils Naujoks, we know, is a lightning fast driver. He's got only 10 kilos on board, but under significant pressure from the Alpine, and this is GT3.
This was what happened to Angus Fender. So look, Sandy Mitchell just tags the back of him. Mitchell then got tagged by Buncombe and by Short, and others went off in avoidance. So the mayhem breaks out. The only good thing for Angus Fender is that he's away from all of that. He didn't get nailed a second time, but you see Ross Gunn was involved in it as well. So eventually they are able to accelerate away. But turn 2, the order shuffles hugely.
And that's a corner. If ever a grandstand was needed on a corner in real world racing, it is that hairpin. Always good for a bit of drama. And Samir Ibrahimi, one of the drivers that's managed to avoid to a lesser or greater extent this drama in the Audi, is currently the leader in a train of drivers trying to find their way past. Samir Ibrahimi high in the championship standings, but maybe not performing quite as he would have hoped last time out at Oulton Park. So this is a big race for Samir, I think, as well, in the number 50s, 49. P6 at the moment in GT4, but with Jesus Cecilia desperately trying to find a way past the back of that bright orange car.
Absolutely, yes. Only 9th at Oulton Park was Ibrahimi, despite looking quick, but he was another one to be on the wrong end of incidents. Let's have another replay and piece together more GT4 fun and games. Leo Machitsky there on the back of Jesus Cecilia as they come out of Riches, up now towards the Wilson hairpin. Machitsky goes to the inside of the KTM, and then up the inside of Chris McDade, goes through but goes wide, and it was McDade getting a tap in the tail from Cecilia that turned around the Chevrolet.
So easy to do when you've got a faster car in the mix, and McDade, of course, in the massive Chevrolet. So once that thing starts going the wrong direction than what you want it to do, it's incredibly difficult to get it back. And Cecilia now down the inside, throws the car, laid on the brakes, does a good job to try and get the car on circuit, runs deep into the corner. That allows Ibrahimi to cut back up again, and now Cecilia under pressure from Florian Hasser in the McLaren behind as well. So Cecilia starting to get a little bit desperate, wanting to make his way through the field, and those sort of half-measure manoeuvres are only going to bring you further into the chasing pack, as now Hasser looks down the inside, last of the late breakers, contact on the rear corner, and Cecilia goes to mow some grass, does a little 360 pirouette, and that is a very untidy little bit of racing there from those.
Yeah, Jesus Cecilia, given his experience, you might have anticipated, would have seen that coming and bailed out of the way. Now, that incident on the opening lap of the race that did for, amongst others, Angus Fender, Sandy Mitchell is being given a drive-through penalty for his part in the contact. So Sandy Mitchell currently is, well, he was 9th as I started the sentence. He's dropping down the order now, but he's been given a drive-through penalty. So Sandy Mitchell's hopes in this race start to change markedly with that drive-through.
Yeah, that's a pity for Sandy Mitchell, and as we've seen quite a few penalties dished out, David, in these opening few moments of this race, and that's going to be quite interesting to see how these drivers fight their way back through the field, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and you've also got that mandatory pit stop to factor in, and right now, certainly in GT4, it's just a constant wave of traffic, isn't it? So wherever you are released, the chances are you're going to find yourself stuck in traffic after your pit stop. Malinowski there, hustling on, trying to get himself back up the order. Now, Bobby Trundley is attacking Jody Fannin, who was well placed earlier, but he, in turn, has also now started to wilt a little bit. The Ferrari, which is carrying 10 kilos of weight, has fallen back into 7th place. Bobby Trundley right there behind. So Up front now, the order is starting to change a little within GT3. Malinowski comes over the line, 29th overall, and chasing after Alexander Doricott there in the Chevrolet just ahead of him.
And these are fantastic scenes. It's like watching a touring car race. You wouldn't think these are GT cars. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 cars line astern trying to find a way past. This is sensational stuff from our GT4 drivers as Florian Hasse does his best to lose the right rear corner of his McLaren in contact with Orognikov, I think that was.
I think you're right, yes. And again, it also shows, doesn't it, whether it's real-world GT racing or this virtual version, how good the BOP is, because you've got that great variety of car, of brand within both GT3 and especially GT4 right now, all pretty much running in a line. Coming then up through the infield there, you saw the McLaren go through, cut back to the Gulf liveried Audi, number 2 Chris Hooker, giving Ogorodnikov a tough time in the KTM. But of course, while they're squabbling like this, they are mired in traffic within the GT4 battle. This, lower down, Cecilia has gone to the pits, and so too into retirement, I fear, Tom Canning.
Oh, that's a real shame to have lost a couple of drivers so early in the running order. And talking about traffic, David, the Snetterton 300 circuit, a little bit longer, a little bit of a faster lap than it is at Oulton Park, but we're still going to start to see traffic coming into play for our leading GT3 contenders. And again, just like in Oulton Park, our race leaders, our overall race leaders, will be the first people to wake up the back of the GT4 pack. So that's another opportunity for our GT3 guys to make a little bit of a shuffle in the running order, isn't it?
It is indeed, yes. As there you've got the Andrew Watson Aston Martin. He's trying to recover, 10th place currently. Angus Fender's up to 11th. It's quite a drive this by Angus Fender, and what further progress can be made. Even with the weight, he is still absolutely flying. And up front now, James Baldwin into the lead of the race, then at the expense of Michael O'Brien, and trying to build that gap now. It's a second and a half between the top two.
Yep, Angus Fender doing an absolutely fabulous performance so far in the number 9 BMW in 11th position at this moment in time, and very much looking like he's got the pace to score not only a couple of points but a real big point score this weekend if he can keep it up, and with the pit stop strategy as well.
Now this is Malinowski's view, isn't it? Back in GT4 in the Alpine, and he's on the tail of Alexander Doricott in that grunt and go Chevrolet, inching up onto the tail of him under braking. But then the danger here is the Alpine good through the twiddly bits. He's going to have to wave goodbye to the Chevrolet when it stretches its legs down Bentley Straight. If a move is coming, it's got to be through the twisty bits right now.
Yeah, these are hilariously different cars, are the Alpine and the Chevrolet. So fabulous to see, like you say, these very, very different race cars, so competitive to each other. But Malinowski, don't forget, Maciej Malinowski is our second place runner in the championship after the opening race of the season. So he's got 15 kilos, but he's also got a healthy collection of points. So Malinowski will be looking to get the shakes on as much as he can and start moving up this field, because it's only a short championship, 5 rounds in length. It's very, very quickly you can get cast adrift in the overall championship, and make no mistake, these drivers want to be champion.
And one driver that is being cast asunder, as it were, is the Oulton Park winner, the GT4 championship leader, Luca Berg, who is down in 34th place, so way, way out of the points. Now, Jody Fannin is under attack. Look, got Bobby Trundley in the Team Brit Aston Martin right up behind him. Ferrari versus Aston. You're riding with Bobby Trundley. Jody Fannin kicks up the dirt as he runs out wide onto Bentley Straight now. And the Aston is absolutely right there, ready to pounce. A flash of the lights to try to distract Jody Fannin, closing under braking, but he wasn't close enough to make a move, except Fannin clips the curb, makes a little bit of an error, leaves the door open towards bomb hole, and Trundley now goes to the inside line. Can he get the Aston Martin alongside the Ferrari? He's almost there, side by side as they come down towards the end of the lap. I think the Aston's going to do it, Paul.
What an exceptional overtaking manoeuvre from Bobby Trundley. Fantastic driving, ultimate bravery. Throws the car to the inside, gives enough space to Jody Fannin as well. Respect from both drivers, but Bobby Trundley, absolutely incredible. And once again, for the second race in a row, performing heroics in that Aston Martin. Bravo, fantastic driving.
News from the pits, as it were. Tom Canning out of the race because of a disconnection, so that's done for him, as Liam McNeely tries to get himself up through the traffic here, and nose to tail Jody Fannin under attack now from Andrew Watson. So you've got their 9th and 10th, these two, as they battle on, but making good progress. Liam McNeely in that Fox Motorsport McLaren. More news there from race control as Bobby Trundley 7th, Liam McNeely 8th, turn through Agostini, 9th is Fannin, 10th is Watson, and 11th is Angus Fender. And look at this, there's another move about to be made on the inside of the Garage 59 Aston Martin, and Fender through. He breaks now into the top 10, runs off the racetrack, gets back on, and more drama because Alex Buncombe arrives on the scene, and Andrew Watson is the one that gets roughed up there.
A little bit of a bump draft from Buncombe there, but he recognises he makes a mistake, slows down, allows the affected party back again. But the upshot of all that is now in the points paying positions for the BMW. So the fantastic drive continues. It's 10th place in the running order. I reckon we're on for a top 6 here if he continues at this speed, does Angus Fender, and we're about 42 minutes into the race, so we give or take 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes away from the pit window opening as well.
Absolutely right. And do you go early to get it out of the way? Do you do it to get out of traffic, or do you keep pushing and try and do it late in the window? Well, now the race leader, James Baldwin, is in jeopardy because look, he's not only in traffic, he is in traffic, which is very, very busy battling and may not really care where he is. He's picking his way through as best he can, but this is real heart-in-mouth stuff because one error from a GT4 car could absolutely nail him.
Yeah, this is scary, scary times for our race leader. Several GT4 cars all in the heat of their own battle as well on a very fast circuit. So Baldwin has got to be super cautious. This is heart-in-mouth moments for James Baldwin. This is the kind of piece of racetrack and piece of action that could really undo a good weekend's work.
But having got himself up ahead of Michael O'Brien, he has just disappeared. O'Brien here is now having to cope with the traffic, but the gap had gone up anyway. It was 2.4 seconds at the start of this lap, and it's going to grow here as James maybe is a little bit more cavalier through the traffic. Michael O'Brien falling away in second place. Ben Green, third overall. Sam Neary making good progress, having not qualified so well, up into fourth. Fifth now is Adam Morgan, who has made great progress from being way back on the GT3 grid. We've not seen much about him, but he's getting on with the job. And then you've got Morgan Short rounding out the top 6.
And here we're looking at Alex Buncombe. So Buncombe, who had a little bit of contact with Watson earlier in the lap, allowed Watson back again. So fair play to Alex Buncombe, some gentlemanly driving there, but maybe showing a little bit of his lack of experience in this championship compared to some of his rivals. As Gus Burton gets a drive-through penalty in the BMW in 16th place.
Indeed so. We'll try and get to the bottom of exactly why, and Leo Machitsky, I understand, is out of the race having gone off the road, so we've lost the Barwell Lamborghini of Leo Machitsky as well. As you see the GT4 contingent pouring their way through, it was a lap 1 incident, Gus Burton and Angus Fender, so Gus Burton gets a drive through in number 57 BMW. Ben Green now has to cope with the traffic up at Wilson. And of course, he in turn is falling away from O'Brien as he's got to wriggle through all of these slower cars.
Yeah, these are incredible scenes. I've commentated over many a virtual race in my time, but this series is proving to be exceptional, and today is no different again as we see, contact. There's contact there with the GT3. That's Neary, I believe it is, making contact with one of the little Alpine GT4s. Neary just about survives and carries on his merry way, but that just shows you, doesn't it, David, you're never far away from jeopardy in a multi-class race like this.
Absolutely right, and not only have you got to do it at least once, like now for James Baldwin, but possibly again once you've made your pit stop, and there'll be yet more traffic in around the Norfolk lap because gaps will have opened up. It'll be a bit more strung out. So yes, for the leading GT3 drivers now, traffic becomes more of a factor as the race wears on for the remaining just under 39 minutes. Sam Neary then getting himself through the traffic and still running impressively in 4th place overall, but Sam was quite impressive at Oulton Park as well, wasn't he? I know he got involved in the odd scrape, but his pace was good there as well.
Yeah, it was. The Mercedes really seems to suit Sam Neary in the simulation, in the virtual race, and as well, Mercedes, a very comfortable car for this kind of track at Snetterton, so no surprises to see Neary up and around the sharp end of the field, and that's exactly what you need to do. If you don't have the ultimate lap time in your pocket to go for the race victory, score solid points. It's a championship. Each race, these are not standalone races, they count towards an overall season, and if you have a good race and somebody like James Baldwin gets into a little bit of trouble, suddenly you're right at the heart of the championship challenge.
Now, the GT4 lead is still being held by George Boothby, but only by just over a second from Jack McIntyre. There's Adam Morgan in the red GT3 Mercedes, trying to get himself up through the traffic, which he does, being chased by Morgan Short in the McLaren with the old roll centre colours on it. But Adam Morgan there goes into turn 3, trying to break clear as Chris McDade gets a tap in the back by Lee King McGee in the Ginetta. He's one of the new qualifiers, and Lee actually going very impressively, so it's good to see that car going nicely. And there in drama is Alex Buncombe, who I think hits escape and goes for the pit lane. So Alex has had a problem, and it looks like he too is out of the race.
Yeah, race retirement for Buncombe, was running 12th out on the circuit in GT3, so just outside of the points paying positions. But again, pit window not far away from opening, so in and around 12th place, you're still in with a fight. So unfortunately, it's another retirement for that car, held the driving steering wheel by Jenson Button last time out at Oulton Park. Alex Buncombe having a go this time, and unfortunately, same end result, DNF for the McLaren 720S Rocket Team Sancho Sim Sport car.
Whoops, there is Luca Burt getting it wrong. That's the GT4 Championship leader, and that was between the cars in 11th and 12th places, Watson and Mitchell. Luca Burt tries to rejoin. He was a long, long way back anyway, like last, and that won't have helped life, but that just illustrates how risky it is for the GT3 cars when there's GT4 traffic around them. Tiny error, and that could have taken either of those GT3 drivers out of the race.
Yeah, there's a very well-worn saying, David, in the UK of it never rains, but it pours. And I'm afraid for Luca Burke, that is very, very true this weekend. Our championship leader in GT4 coming into this race. And it just feels like if there wasn't any bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all. What a nightmare Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening even, for Luca Burke.
Yeah, the pace just is not there. The only good thing is that he can shed the weight for the next round. But yeah. Jack McIntyre is not doing a bad job in the unballasted car from the same team, and there, look, you've got the battle on now. This is for GT4 honours, just ahead of the McLaren, the GT3 race leading McLaren, but the GT4 fight is on. Boothby versus McIntyre, and there Michael O'Brien up behind them, so that's the second place McLaren. Baldwin's gone by, O'Brien splits the pair of them, and that of course in turn delays Jack McIntyre, doesn't it? So he's put off his stride slightly. Now what does this tell us? This is Alex Buncombe versus Andrew Watson, and to the inside goes Alex, and they touch, and a spin for the McLaren, and that was enough to put Alex effectively out of the race.
Yeah, always an optimistic overtaking opportunity is the first corner at Richards, and Buncombe just getting a little bit desperation, I think, in his driving there, just really trying to push on, force his way up through the field. A few mistakes have come his way as well, and Buncombe out of the race. We're looking at Morgan Short in that beautiful liveried McLaren. As you say, I keep wanting to say Mosley. It's a beautiful touch to the past is Morgan Short's roll centre racing McLaren. 6th position, very strong result so far for Morgan Short.
He was another one that did this at Oulton Park, wasn't he? He just got on with the job, kept out of trouble. And so Morgan now hunting down Adam Morgan, who runs in 5th place as the cars come down towards the end of the lap. James Baldwin leading now by 6 seconds from Michael O'Brien. And Morgan Short decides to get the pit stop done. In he comes.
Yep, so Morgan Short jumping down pit road just as the pit window opens. So the very earliest opportunity Morgan Short has taken it to make his mandatory pit stop. And to remind everybody at home, it is a mandatory pit window. So 10 minutes, each and every driver on the circuit has to go down pit road, serve a pit stop, put a litre minimum of fuel in the car. They can change tyres if they so desire, and the way that you know at home who's made a stop and who hasn't, if you look at the timing stack on the left hand side of your screen, the little orange icon with a 1 in it denotes that a driver still has 1 pit stop to make. When it goes green, that denotes the fact that they have made their mandatory pit stop, and the little P that you see next to Fender, Mitchell and Watson's name means they're on pit road. So Angus Fender, the driver that's made all the moves so far in this race, also decides to take that opportunity, David, and get down pit road early doors and get it out of the way for the last 33 minutes.
They've got to take on at least 1 litre of fuel. They can change tyres if needs be. So we'll see whether anybody elects to do that and therefore has better pace in their second stint, which of course has 33 minutes still to run if you pit now, because that's what is left in the race. This is the GT4 lead battle. Jack McIntyre has done a good job of getting onto the back here of the Aston Martin of George Boothby. Now, George, of course, new to the championship because he was the fastest Aston Martin qualifier. So he's not necessarily fighting yet for the championship. Might do if he stays in and gets good results. But really impressive. He's come from the Hot Laps qualifiers, and here he is leading the way.
Yeah, exceptional job, and you can't miss that Aston Martin in bright pink as Boothby jumps down pit road now. So Jack McIntyre inherits the race lead, and McIntyre in this number 37 Porsche didn't get a podium in class last time out, but showed ample pace in that car. So it's great for Jack Mack that we're seeing him now start to perform to the potential that we all know he's got in this championship.
Yeah, he led the first half of the race, didn't he? And then had a slow pit stop. And then that kind of did for him in the second part of the race. But I think he also said he had a slow puncture, which was why he was dropping away. Now, Angus Fender has had a much slower pit stop, I understand, than, for example, Morgan Short. So there is Angus Fender. And whoops, Andrew Watson gets it all wrong ahead of him and goes off the road, avoids anything solid. Angus Fender gains a place back. Now, there are various reasons, I guess, Paul, for why it was a slow pit stop, like it was just a bit rubbish, or that they took extra time to maybe sort out damage or change tyres.
Yep, it does suggest 30 seconds is your average pit stop within this simulation, Assetto Corsa Competizione. Okay. With it being a little bit longer at 44, that suggests, as you say, David, either repairing a little bit of damage or even throwing some new boots on the car as well, because Fender, as we know, has been facing the wrong direction and then pushing incredibly hard. So maybe throwing 4 new tyres on that BMW is not necessarily a bad idea to try and unlock some more speed for the second half of the race.
Do we have any way of knowing that? Is there a way within the sort of back end of the game to see what people do in these pit stops?
We can suggest it in commentary and hope that somebody somewhere digs away deep into the files and then leaves a little note in our ear, but nothing that we've got available to us at the moment, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, I think you might be right. Certainly, if Angus Fender's pace is as good as it was before, and he has been able to sort out damage and or new tyres, then he's one to watch. And remember, he's doing all of this with those extra 30 kilos, picking his way now up through the traffic. So where is Fender? He is currently in 13th place, but there's a whole raft of people up the road that have yet to serve their mandatory pit stops. Adam Morgan has done his, you'll notice. Sandy Mitchell has done his, but the order continues to shuffle around. There, look, is Sandy Mitchell chasing on behind the BMW in the hands of Ben Green, and there is Adam Morgan, right, 11th now, having served his pit stop. The Mac Tools-backed Mercedes, a loyal sponsor of Sicily, and there Adam Morgan, as I say, he's done his stop. He's in 11th place overall, coming down towards the end of the lap. And the pit window has only got another 5 minutes, so those that haven't stopped need to get on with it, especially, as Paul made the point earlier, it's a long lap, this.
It is indeed, and Adam Morgan is a driver I think that's worth mentioning, keeping himself out of trouble. We've not really seen much from the bright red Sicily Motorsport Mercedes AMG, but he's doing all the right things. He's carrying a consistent speed, keeping himself out of trouble, and the reward will be a very strong, well into the top 10 by the time the pit stops have shuffled themselves out. So good driving from Adam Morgan. Not his natural habitat, his GT racing, but great performance nonetheless.
It is good, and Andrew Watson is now being given a drive-through penalty for an incident that involved Sam Neary, and he's being given a drive-through penalty. Sorry, not Sam Neary, it was Ben Green that he was involved with, and then an incident involving cars 88 and 77. There's a drive-through coming there as well.
And Michael O'Brien in second position down pit road. So Michael O'Brien, one of the first front runners to jump down pit lane for their mandatory pit stop. James Baldwin continues circulating in the lead. 6+ seconds advantage he had at the time. So Baldwin in a comfortable position in race lead. Ben Green moves up into second place. O'Brien currently third. So O'Brien made his mandatory stop, returns to the circuit in third position. In fourth, Bobby Trunley in the Aston Martin. So Bobby Trunley having a great race so far, David. Really keeping out of trouble and putting in good lap times as well, as we're looking now at Morgan chasing down McNeely, I believe it is, in the McLaren ahead.
Sam Neary gets the drive through. That last graphic, everything being done in the heat of the moment, had a slight bit of confusion, but it's Sam Neary, you see it on the timing tower, being given a drive through. Andrew Watson gets his for a separate incident. On board with Adam Morgan over the line, and the Mercedes closing on the McLaren, closing right up onto the back of the McLaren there, under braking for riches. So for 10th place now, McNeely versus Morgan, almost nose to tail up towards Wilson. Great noise from the Mercedes. Of course, one of the best things about GT, the different shapes and sizes and sounds that they all make. And McNeely there, way wide at Wilson, left the door wide open for Adam Morgan. The pressure is getting to him. And look up the road, there's a back marker.
Yeah, this is going to be intense. That's Nils Naujoks in the BMW, I think. And Adam Morgan driving the wheels off this Mercedes, David, up the inside.
Squeezes past the BMW of Nils Naujoks, but Liam McNeely, new to the championship, is keeping himself, for the moment at least, in that 10th place, under attack from Adam Morgan, who was a runner-up here in one of the touring car races at Snetterton last year, and he's come from the school of hard knocks. If you can win in the BTCC, then you know you're a pretty decent peddler. Replay here of Angus Fender carving his way up through traffic on the inside, gets past Jody Fannin and brakes late. Does he brake at all? Yes, look at that. Squeezes between the Chevrolet Camaros. Great move by Angus Fender as he gets himself back into the game.
Angus Fender has got the golden touch so far in this race. It feels like everything he's doing to the absolute maximum that he can get out of that BMW. That was some phenomenal driving from Angus Fender. Judgment or luck, we'll leave it to you to decide, but Angus Fender placing the car with millimetre precision, and 13th so far, but there are a few cars that are yet to travel down pit road.
Now, Jack McIntyre, leading in GT4, has just pitted, so we need to see where 37 Porsche, the 718 iteration of the Cayman, where that rejoins relative to George Boothby, who is here coming up towards the line. He's going to keep his class lead, I reckon. Yes, he does. Have a look, just hidden behind the timing tower. Coming out of the pit lane is Jack McIntyre, and Nils Naujoks there will go ahead of him as well. So Jack Mack has lost out on the pit stops, a bit like he did at Oulton Park.
Yeah, it's not worked out during the pit stop cycle for McIntyre, but he does have fresh, well, they're not fresher tyres, they'll probably be the same tyres, but he will now start to charge onto the back of Naujoks. Naujoks has been a little bit quieter than we would expect. I mean, he's still in the podium paying positions, is Nils Naujoks, but not quite showing the speed in the BMW that we expected. So it'll be very interesting in the next 25 minutes or so, David, to see if McIntyre can close up to the rear of that sinister looking BMW.
Jack Mack lost 5 seconds to George Boothby in that pit stop. Neither of them changed tyres, incidentally, but it was just another slow stop for the Porsche. So he's given away 5 seconds. He's given away a place to Nils Naujoks here. Yeah, it's going to be good for Nils for the championship, of course. Another consistent run for a podium, but not great for Jack McIntyre.
Yep, real shame for McIntyre. And for those at home wondering how, when you've not got physical pit workers changing tyres and repairing the car and fueling up, how you can lose time, you've got to hit your marker in the pit stall. And when you've hit your marker, thrown the car into neutral, the service can begin. So if you're not quite right on your marks, or you're slow hitting your speed limiter coming into the pit lane, or slow getting that limiter off coming out of the pit lane, these can all add up, can't they, David? And like Michael Schumacher very much made his trademark when he came to Formula One, it's maximising those little details that can very, very easily be the difference between winning or losing a position on track.
Absolutely right, yes. The pit stop is part of the race. It's not the time where you have a break or relax, because every 10th of a second that you get within that pit stop is absolutely vital, and it tees you up to perhaps gain places during the course of the race. Now Morgan to the outside line here of Liam McNeely, can't do it on the way into Wilson, and the danger here is that they're being caught, look, by the cars behind. Another drive-through penalty is coming. 67 receives the drive-through. That is Florian Hasse in GT4. So Florian Hasse, normally a competitive driver in the GT4 class, gets a drive-through. Right, Morgan again now getting a little bit more angsty about this. Goes to the outside of Liam McNeely, still can't find a way through. Sandy Mitchell in the Lamborghini is in the background as well. And I think that's Ben Green's BMW that's trying to find a way through the traffic as well right now.
But look at this, Liam McNeely making his debut in the British GT Esports series. It's like an old hand, placing the car exactly where he needs to on the defensive, not overcooking his defensive driving to compromise himself on corner exits. And Adam Morgan trying to deploy every tool in his skill set to get past and just can't do it.
So Morgan to the outside as they come down towards the S's then, and this time he is going to make the move round the outside for the first part, the inside for the second, and now the job is done. It's Gus Burton behind them, who's also trying to move himself up the order in the Century BM, but there, look, it is now Morgan finally through into 7th place. Remember, he's made his pit stop, which is another reason why he's dropped back a little, but now trying to work his way forward. And Gus Burton's on his toes in the BM as he, in turn, tries to get himself up the order. He's on a different lap from the others, though, so he's not really part of this fight, but he is kind of getting in the way and affecting what goes on around him.
He's indeed. He's holding up the Lamborghini behind him. So that's Sandy Mitchell, I believe, in the number 72 Lamborghini, trying to make his way through the running order. Gus Burton just in the mix to 14th place. So I'm not quite sure how that fits into the track position that we're seeing at this moment in time. But Adam Morgan and Liam McNeely, that was some really good racing. And so nice, wasn't it, David, to see them give each other respect, give each other racing room to pull off that manoeuvre.
Yeah, Gus Burton, just to tidy that one up, I think he got a drive-through early on, didn't he, for contact involving Angus Fender. So he's a lap down on this battle pack, so that's why he's out of sequence. So the pace is right, but he's a lap adrift, but he just happens to be running with them as there. Fender gets past McNeely as well now. So Angus Fender now goes 9th, and his lap 1 nemesis, or one of his 2 nemesis, Sandy Mitchell, is the next one up the road. They clashed at the hairpin. Fender now bearing down on that Lamborghini. Of course, a lighter car. That BMW, remember, still has to lug around an extra 30 kilos of weight.
What a phenomenal performance from Angus Fender. And as you say, next man up the road, Sandy Mitchell in the 72 Lamborghini. And then Adam Morgan that we see at the front of the pack, just a bit further down the road in 7th place. So, as I suggested earlier in the broadcast, if he keeps this speed up, Angus Fender could even achieve the unbelievable and be fighting for a top 6 come checkered flag. What a drive. I cannot say how impressed I am in Angus Fender and the BMW. 9th place so far, and plenty more to do in the race for the next 21 and a bit minutes.
Now, the race leaders have served their pit stops. James Baldwin has been in, Michael O'Brien has been in, Ben Green has been in. So the top 3 then, good to go to the end. And look at the margin that James has pulled here, 11.6 seconds. So he was quite content early on to shadow Michael for a few laps, ease his way by, and he's just disappeared up the road. As you see, Florian Hassan now on the timing tower, confirmed with his drive-through. That is Gus Burton getting up past Adam Morgan, and the door open, and Sandy Mitchell, the reigning British GT champion, pounces. He and Morgan clash as they come out of the hairpin, and so now Mitchell to the outside line. This is for 7th, and the Flying Scotsman goes through. Sandy Mitchell goes round the outside, but Adam Morgan keeps track position for the moment. He's got the inside line down towards Agostini. Now Angus Fender comes up to have a go. Mitchell goes round the outside. Fender challenges as well.
Oh, fantastic racing. Sandy Mitchell and Andrew Morgan still fighting tooth and nail, and we see, very wisely, Angus Fender just holding back a little bit, very reluctant to get 3 wider into the heat of that battle. Let us see how it transpires. Let's see how things progress, and then pick off each driver one by one. So Fender, he's got the speed, he's got the bravery, he's got the commitment, but he's also got the racecraft and intelligence to know when is a good opportunity to attack and when just to keep your powder dry a little bit and see how things unfold.
Sam Neary being given a 10-second stop and go penalty for an incident that involved Maciej Malinowski in the Alpine. So Sam Neary's race, I think he'd already got a drive-through. He's now being given this stop-go penalty. Among the big winners within GT3, Adam Morgan is 1, Ben Green another. They both gained 8 places from where they qualified, but Adam might lose one of those in a moment because Angus Fender is right there with him as they come to the end of the lap, nose to tail. The 2 German cars, Mercedes ahead of BMW. So Baldwin leads, O'Brien is 2nd, Green 3rd, Morgan Short 4th, Jody Fannin 5th, Bobby Trundley doing a really good job 6th ahead of Sandy Mitchell there, 7th, 8th Morgan, and 9th Angus Fender right on his tail as Liam McNeely rounds out that top 10.
Yeah, Fender very much trying to find a way past, just shows his nose to the inside. In fact, turns that into an overtaking manoeuvre from miles back. Angus Fender, I think he was just showing his nose to Morgan. Then the gap became apparent that that's an opportunity, and Angus Fender takes 8th position, made it look easy, but it was far from it into the hairpin. And 8th place, and now the hunt continues to Sandy Mitchell, but Angus, did he make that manoeuvre, or was he just surprised and it came to him, David?
Well, you've got to get up fairly early to get past Adam Morgan. Like I say, as a touring car racer, he's come from the school of hard knocks. He knows how to attack, how to defend, but that BMW, make no mistake about it, is absolutely flying. And Angus Fender himself, not only a very good real-world driver, but was a pretty experienced sim racer before he came into Ginetta Racing a few years ago. So he knows, if you like, both strands of the sport. Good little battle going on here. Ivan Shematinsky, who is another big beneficiary, he's gained 10 places within GT4 from where he qualified. He's doing a very good job, 23rd overall.
Yeah, Shematinsky, a fantastic driver, somebody we've seen much of in many competitions over the last 12, 18, 24 months or so. Currently 23rd in the overall running order, a little bit further down than he would have hoped maybe in GT4, but just remind everybody at home, finishing the top 10 in your class in GT4 in this race, you're automatically invited to the next one at the Branzacs Grand Prix circuit. So points are important for the title, but also to continue to be a part of this championship. And Shematinsky at the moment in 10th position, but he's got Chris McDade in the You Can't Miss It Chevrolet Camaro behind him, and one of the GT3 front runners trying to make their way through as well. So plenty of fight still left in this little battle.
Yeah, that's Michael O'Brien, isn't it, in the McLaren, running second overall, getting himself up through the traffic as there Shematinsky accelerates onto Bentley Straight. To the inside line, though, goes the Chevrolet. Chris McDade will go through there in that enormous highlighter pen that picks up a place. So through he goes. That's going to put him now 23rd overall. A reprimand for an earlier incident to Alex Buncombe for the clash that he had with Andrew Watson. So Alex was already retired, Andrew Watson's retired from the race, but race control sifting through all the various incidents. Right, we've only got just under 17 minutes to go. You've got to say right now, the gap that he's got suggests that James Baldwin is odds on for the race win. But Michael O'Brien looking good in second place ahead of Ben Green.
Yeah, the front three are starting to keep a bit of a gap now to the rest of chasing packs. It's just a case of keeping everything on the straight and narrow, avoiding any difficulty in traffic, keeping your concentration levels up as well. Make sure you don't make a mistake and just stroke the car home to the checkered flag. But David, I'm sure you've seen this times many in your commentary career. It's almost when it becomes the most dangerous for a racing driver, when you've got nothing really serious to do and just bring the car to the flag, because concentration levels drop, don't they?
Indeed so. You kind of have to aim for qualifying laps all the time, don't you, to keep yourself fresh. Aim for a new lap record or the fastest lap of the race, yes. Liam McNeely getting a bit carried away as he came out of the S's that time, rattling over the curb in the 2Cs Motorsport McLaren. Drops down now towards the completion of lap 24. But it is 15 seconds between James Baldwin and Michael O'Brien. So James, who of course won on his real-world GT debut at Oulton Park nearly a year ago, looks like he's going to win this second round of the Esports British GT Championship. He won on the road at Oulton last week. Looks like this one is his for keeps.
It is indeed, and Shematinsky now starting to close that gap back again to Chris McDade. Lost the position on the previous lap. Great camera angle in the Mercedes AMG just behind the front splitter. And look at the debris, look at the tyre marbles that have collected on the front of Shematinsky's Jean Alesi Esports Academy AMG Mercedes. This is a guy that does not want to give up that place to Chris McDade ahead. McDade has got the grunt in the straight line, but I would argue that the Mercedes is a little bit more pointy around the corners as one of the BMWs comes through the order now to put a lap. Once again on GT4, be careful not to collect the rear of the car. And Shematinsky still very much a man who wants that position back.
James Baldwin has done the fastest lap of the race outright, incidentally, so he's on for the triple whammy here. Pole, win, fastest lap, as there is Samir Ibrahimi down towards the end of the lap on the back of Chris Turker. So the two Audis go through together. That very distinctive Audi engine noise as they come past the pits then, with just 14 minutes still on the clock. Now, where's the next battle going to come from in all of this? GT4, after the stop, still being led by George Boothby. Really impressive debut in the championship, this, from Niels Naujoks and Jack McIntyre in third. Jack Mack close to Naujoks, but not yet able to find a way through. Out of the GT4 traffic comes the GT3 McLaren. Fourth overall, Morgan Short. Really impressive drive, this.
Yeah, exceptional drive from Morgan Short. Kept himself out of trouble. Did a nice job, nice and neat, not getting involved in any dramas, and it's paying off significantly for Morgan Short at this moment in time as we see the Ferrari getting involved in the GT4 battle as well. But just going back to Boothby for a second, if I may, GT4 race leader, debutant in the series, and ahead of some massive names like Niels Naujoks that we're looking at now, Jack McIntyre that seems to be absolutely full of speed in that Cayman. It can't be underestimated how good a job George Boothby is doing.
So there is Jack McIntyre on the tail of Niels Naujoks. This little battle is for second in class behind George Boothby. I echo what Paul says about him doing a great job. New to the championship, qualified through the hot laps, and he's just got on with the job. He's letting everybody else squabble. Naujoks, don't forget, does have weight. He's got 10 kilos in that car. But even so, there he is in second spot, and McIntyre is all over him like a rash. Another great race we've enjoyed, and it's great to see not only the interest from the sim racers, but from real-world British GT drivers and teams, and indeed media. Motorsport News, for example, putting up a trophy to the GT3 champion, and for the first time I think that sim racing can claim this, carrying race reports on the British GT Esports Championship, which is further recognition of how relevant sim racing is becoming these days.
Yeah, it really is fabulous to see, accelerated somewhat by the global health pandemic and the influx of real-world brands and drivers and teams and championships. But it really is fabulous to see the virtual sport that many of us have followed for many, many years starting to get that recognition in the real world that it so truly deserves, because drivers like the Niels Naujoks don't have the funding to go out there and do a real world motorsport career, but are still great personalities, incredible drivers, and can produce, David, just like we see last week and today, some fascinating and exciting on-track action, even if it is the virtual world.
I still find it fascinating that you have to go and get a budget to do real world racing, but you can be paid to do sim racing. And there's Niels Naujoks, who looks after the G2 team, he looks after Red Bull's esports program, but Jack McIntyre is keeping him honest, to coin a phrase. The Porsche ballast free, right on the tail of the BMW, 11.5 minutes to go. This is for second in class. McIntyre trying to get out of the way of Michael O'Brien there as they come down towards the S's. The McLaren, for the moment at least, splits the GT4 cars. Ideally, McIntyre wants to try to follow that car through when O'Brien makes his move against Naujoks, which is there, but he wasn't quite close enough. And actually, these two aren't a million miles behind Boothby, are they?
No, they're not at all, and Naujoks seems to be struggling a little bit with the extra ballast, the 10 kilograms aboard that BMW. McIntyre, we've seen it last weekend and we've seen it this weekend, has got incredible pace but doesn't seem to be able to access it lap upon lap, so he has moments where he falls away, but at the moment in time the bit's very much between the teeth, and Jack McIntyre trying to use this opportunity to find a way past as we go to a replay.
And that was Maciej Malinowski being given a real whack in the back by Michał Tauscher in the BMW. That, I suspect, might get looked at. What do you think?
Yes, that might acquire the wrath of the stewards, methinks.
Yes. There's nowhere to hide when it's as blatant as that, is there? Right, Naujoks, in the world's widest BMW M4, is doing a ripper job here of keeping Jack McIntyre at bay. Yes, he's got the weight in the car, hence the pace isn't great, but Naujoks using every element of his experience to keep the young British driver behind him, nose to tail towards Agostini, and we've got just 10 minutes to go. This is for the second step on that notional podium in GT4.
Yeah, this is going to be an incredibly difficult challenge for Niels Naujoks. 10 minutes to soak up that pressure, to keep that second position. Naujoks, a driver that would very much expect himself to be invited to each race and be in for the overall championship challenge, needs those points, as Ross Gunn now recovering from penalties, spins, contact, drama and excitement, is fighting for that last points paying pace in GT3 at the moment with Liam McNeely.
That's right, he's in 11th place overall, wants to get 10th, but yes, Ross Gunn delayed on the opening lap when he too got caught up in the dramas at Wilson and had a spin. I suppose a spinning gun is a revolver, isn't he? Anyway, he comes now out of Agostini on the tail of the McLaren. Look, the other side of the screen, Jack McIntyre is still all over the back of Niels Naujoks. They are together for second and third in GT4. Jack Matt running out of ideas, whereas Ross Gunn, way up the curve, he's trying to use the traffic to his advantage, isn't he?
Yep, action every part of the racetrack that you look at. The GT3 fight getting a little bit leery through the traffic, and Gunn not quite got the opportunity yet, David, but he's got to run down the straight.
Adam Morgan ahead of them all, getting through the traffic in the red Mercedes. Right, Gunn to the outside down towards the S's. Gunn has McNeely in his sights and now strikes on the inside, going to the second part of the S's. Job done. McNeely tries to fight back, but Ross Gunn, I think he's just going to fend him off. No, he's not going to fend him off. The inside line claimed by McNeely, runs it wide over the curb, but he's gone back through. Great racing between these two now.
Absolutely fabulous between these two. Gunn thought he got the deal sealed, but McNeely decides, nope, I'm not wanting to give that one up just yet. Pounces at the first available opportunity, and Ross Gunn now so close he could taste that 1 point for 10th position. And with 8 minutes and 18 seconds left and plenty of traffic on the circuit as well for good measure, this one's going to be either spectacular or unmitigated disaster in the next 8 minutes.
Let's find out. Gunn is on target, isn't he, to get that point, I think, looking at the pace of the car. That incident we saw between Malinowski and Tauscher, as there, Gunn goes 10th, a little mistake made by McNeely. To nobody's great surprise, the stewards have said Tauscher was at fault, so he's got a drive-through penalty. And there, Ross Gunn goes through turn 3, then into the top 10. Another good recovery, all of this. Angus Fender, in the meantime, up to 7th now from 27th at the end of the opening lap, but he's not done yet. He's still charging on in pursuit of Bobby Trundley.
He is indeed, and I've got to admit, with all the drama of the Gunn-McNeely fight, that was kind of like a bit of an anticlimax, that overtaking manoeuvre. I expected something quite impressive as Nils Naujoks now continues to fight.
Nils Naujoks then still under attack from Jack McIntyre. Naujoks wide out of bomb hole over the curb. That unsettles the BMW. Can McIntyre capitalise on that? Let's see. 16th and 17th overall, 2nd and 3rd in GT4. There is McIntyre. That bullet-shaped Porsche Cayman. Great noise it makes too, right on the back of the BMW as they come now up towards the timing line once again. Nose to tail, McIntyre trying to find that gap. He's just lacking that final 10th, isn't he, to be able to make the move?
Yeah, he is, and somebody like Nils Naujoks is not going to give away freely overtaking opportunities. Consummate professional, exceptionally experienced, doesn't even bother defending fresh air, just moves over to the inside at the last safe and sensible moment. So Naujoks, you've got to really work to overtake a driver like Nils Naujoks. And as you say, McIntyre, he's not seconds and seconds faster, just a few tenths all the wrong points of the racetrack. So this is going to be a massive effort from Jack McIntyre if he wants to liberate that second place from Nils Naujoks.
Very late on the brakes at Agostini, and they're being reeled in by Morgan Short, so this battle might be interrupted for a moment. What's great about this is it's clean. There's nothing silly in all of that, is there? There's no desperate driving. It's just very fair, very clean, very committed, and Morgan Short sweeps between the two GT4 cars and gets the job done. And Morgan is on his way to 4th. A really good, impressive drive once again. That Morgan, who was 6th at Oulton, going even better here at Snetterton.
Yep, indeed. And just while we've got a moment's break in the action on circuit, if you're enjoying this GT4 battle for the folks at home and you feel like you've got the ability to join in this grid of drivers, then tomorrow from 8 AM BST in the morning, the hot lap qualification will be open for our next cohort of drivers for round 3 of the Branzacs Grand Prix circuit. So do visit that competition with inside Assetto Corsa Competizione, register on the SRO Esports website, and try and get your name down for a time and a place on the grid potentially at Brands Hatch in just 7 days' time.
So what George Boothby did for Snetterton, and look what it's turned out to be for him. A race lead all the way through, and a class win is heading his way. McIntyre is throwing everything at Naujoks then. 5 minutes to go. We're looking at maybe 2-3 more laps. That's all now. So we're getting to the business end of proceedings at Snetterton. It is still a race being led, nay, dominated now by James Baldwin, who is 22 seconds ahead of his teammate. Identical cars, but James Baldwin way clear as again Angus Fender pulls out to get past Sandy Mitchell for 7th. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, Fender, we saw him about 4 seconds in arrears of Sandy Mitchell. It's taken him a little bit longer than I expected to close up to the back of that Lamborghini. Barwell Motorsport entered Lamborghini, but closed he now has, flashing his lights. Fender is desperate to liberate 7th place from Sandy Mitchell. He can see Trundley a little bit further down the road, maybe too far away now, was certainly in fact too far away to close up on, but no matter what happens to Angus Fender, if he stays 8th or gets 7th, it has been the drive of the day, in my opinion, as Jack McIntyre still can't find a way past Naujoks.
I'd offer you George Boothby as another possible driver of the day, because to come into it as fresh as he has, to qualify as well, I think he's done a really, really impressive job. Naujoks, though, I get the feeling he's under more and more pressure now from McIntyre. Their battle might be interrupted by Bobby Trundley, who needs to find a way by, and he does get past the Porsche. Right, can McIntyre go with him? Yes, tries to. Might get a toe here if he's really clever about it. Looks to the inside line down towards the S's, but no. Nils Naujoks moves across, covers the line. still makes me smile to a degree that you've got lots of these drivers in GT4, Paul, the sim racing stars from all over the world who probably never set foot on Norfolk soil, and yet here they are in a virtual race and treating the circuit like they're masters at it.
Yeah, it is fantastic, the world that we live in, that virtual world. The drivers from, as you say, all over the world, never been to the UK, never seen a British GT Championship race, but are in the official championship and doing a superb job.
Right, Fender is up past Mitchell. It was a very brave move going through turns 8 and 9. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. But Angus Fender has done it. He's got past Sandy Mitchell. There is the Jack McIntyre Porsche still glued to the back of Niels Naujoks as they come out of turn 1 at Riches, up now towards Wilson. And just as McIntyre gets close enough to think about a move, Angus Fender comes through on the inside to put a lap on him. Sandy Mitchell goes after him, and McIntyre can't see the BMW anymore. Now he can. Fender gets by. But look, the gap, because of the GT3 cars getting through, suddenly opens up.
Honestly, David, my face hurts from smiling constantly for the last 15 minutes. This is incredible driving from both classes, from every driver in the field. Just the way that you saw, just like real racing, the GT3s slicing their way between McIntyre and Naujoks as we go to a replay. This is the overtaking move, David.
So this was Fender on Mitchell, goes to the outside, brakes ludicrously late, gets around the outside for the left-handed element. He's ahead for the right. And not only that, but as Sandy Mitchell tries to get back up the inside, Angus Fender sticks out his elbows, goes one side and then the other, but he was absolutely adamant that there was no way Sandy was getting back past him.
Fabulous. Maximum commitment there, of course, for the right-hander, for the return right-hander. There's a sausage curb on the inside that is just waiting to launch the car straight into an accident. So the precision of avoiding contact with your rival and avoiding contact with that sausage curb, judging your braking point just right so you give each other enough racing room, you stay within the confines of the racetrack as well. That is fabulous from both of those, and the upshot of it all is Angus Fender continues his march up the running order, and in fact he's only 3.2 away from Trunley now, so Fender a little bit quicker through the traffic than Bobby Trunley in the Aston Martin. So I suggested he was too far away with 1 minute just over on the clock, but hey, from what we've seen, anything's possible.
True enough, and Ross Gunn ain't done yet either, look, because he's now caught up to the back of Adam Morgan as they come up towards the timing line. Mercedes versus Aston Martin. So the Beach Dean Aston of Ross Gunn almost hidden behind the Mercedes down towards Riches. Then we're on the last lap of the race as far as James Baldwin is concerned, I suspect. And there, a sideways Morgan, that might have been with a bit of help. You've got here, there, look, Fender around the outside of Trundley. And if he's not careful, Mitchell will be back up the inside of him. So all of a sudden, it is kicking off now for 6th, 7th and 8th places. Angus Fender to the outside line. Adam Morgan is keeping Ross Gunn at bay, and Fender gets involved with Trundley, turns him sideways, shovels him out of the way. And I have a horrible feeling that Angus might get a yellow card for that. So Sandy Mitchell gains a place as well. But Angus Fender, with a bit of contact, is through, but he might not keep that place.
Yep, scrappy overtake, unfortunately, and is in a difficult position that Sandy Mitchell is in the middle as well, so he can't give the place back and fight again with Trunley. So I'm sure that'll be looked at after the checkered flag has waved. And Ross Gunn trying to pull the trigger on an overtaking manoeuvre of Adam Morgan ahead, and our fight for GT4 also in the middle of this as well. So two of the best fights on track, all in one piece of tarmac. Look at that.
And now McIntyre is going to have a go. Gunn forced onto the grass. The Porsche almost alongside the BMW. Ross Gunn survives that. Arrives very late on the brakes into the S's. Amazing recovery. That brilliant stuff by Ross Gunn. Naujoks keeping somehow the Porsche of Jack McIntyre at bay. Meantime, James Baldwin continues to dominate. He's way up the road now as the race leader, soon to be winner. And there he is. So James Baldwin has absolutely blitzed the opposition here at Snetterton. So Naujoks versus McIntyre, they've squeezed one more lap out of it. And so has the Morgan-Gunn battle that comes across the line. But we're almost at the checkered flag. What a drive by James Baldwin.
Fantastic. It's been that exciting at the end. We've got 3 screens on your screen to look at it. It's fantastic. James Baldwin, though, untouchable at the front.
So he's going to carry 30 kilos on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch. But whoops, contact as Gunn gets into the back of Morgan. That turns the Mercedes around. There is Ross Gunn now ahead of GT4 leader George Boothby, effectively on his own. Look up, you've got them side by side in GT4, and there, a race win. Round 2 of the British GT Esports Championship falls to James Baldwin. The recovering Morgan tries to get past McIntyre. This one is going to go all the way to the wire, isn't it? As the BMW and Porsche are still tied together. There is a drive-through penalty for Angus Fender for the incident with Bobby Trundley. Well, he won't be able to serve that. It'll have to come as a time penalty at the very end. So Angus Fender's good recovery is going to unravel.
It is indeed. Real shame for Angus Fender at the checkered flag, but this is still in GT4. Still hard at it between McIntyre and Naujoks, but Naujoks leading into the final few corners.
So up front, ahead of them in GT4 is George Boothby, on target for the class win. These two have still got about, half a lap to go. Naujoks just ahead for the moment. There's the class leader, soon to become class winner. And hats off to George Boothby. Brilliant drive, this.
Yeah, fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. You can't miss that Aston Martin out on track, as we've seen Morgan, I think it was, making contact with the GT4s.
And that's McIntyre ahead of Naujoks. So Jack McIntyre goes ahead of Niels Naujoks in all the drama, and the Porsche finally has done it. Angus Fender's drive-through will become, of course, a 30-second penalty post-race. But for GT4, Paul, we've got another new winner.
Absolutely incredible. George Boothby, from beginning to end, looks dominant, flashes his lights, takes the checkered flag, and George Boothby on debut takes the race victory. Jack McIntyre on the final lap secures second position, and Niels Naujoks in third place rounds out the GT4 Sim Racers podium.
Catch your breath after all of that. I think the only driver that had anything like an easy race, relatively speaking, was James Baldwin, and you could argue he deserved that after Oulton Park and the travails that he had there. So there will be some shuffling, I suspect, when penalties are applied and other incidents looked at. But James Baldwin wins at Snetterton from Michael O'Brien in second place, and Ben Green takes third. Morgan Short fourth, ahead of Jody Fannin and Sandy Mitchell. Then Bobby Trundley, Ross Gunn, Liam McNeely and Adam Morgan all elevated, with the time penalty being given to Angus Fender, who's not yet fed into that graphic. So we'll see where that penalty drops him to once it is confirmed. He was sixth over the line at the 30 seconds, and of course he will drop a long, long way back. And already in the chat room it has kicked off between different drivers for their point of view about little incidents and contact. Niels Naujoks not very happy about losing second in GT4 after that clash with Adam Morgan. So another very lively race indeed, and as we saw at Oulton Park, so we see it again here at Snetterton.
Yeah, it was fabulous, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
The Intelligent Money British GT Championship is a great series in the real world, constantly getting stronger, it seems, year on year. And it's great to see that the virtual counterpart, the official David virtual counterpart as well from SRO, is representing the championship in such a great way.
It is indeed. Well, we've got our class winners, I think we can have a word with in due course. James Baldwin, the GT3 winner, George Boothby for GT4, and we'll try and get James across in a moment to have a word with. 23 seconds clear he was at the end of the race, with Michael O'Brien in second place and Ben Green taking third spot. But a mighty effort that by James Baldwin, and he secures the race win. Right, we've got him in the caster booth for a moment. James, we speak again. This time the good news is no penalties, no dramas. You keep the win and a great drive. Well done.
Oh, David, I was getting flashbacks. I thought you were going to tell me we've got another penalty. Oh, thank you. It was a good race. Yeah, really, to be honest, a boring-ish race, which is kind of nice sometimes. So, it was good.
You say it was boring. We're just getting a replay on our feed of the first lap, turn 2, where you got tagged sideways. It wasn't that boring then, was it?
No, you're right. Yeah, that was interesting. But it made the first few laps had a really good battle with Michael, my my teammate from last year in British GT, to get the lead, and Al Buncombe as well. So, yeah, the McLarens are strong around here. So hopefully that's a little theme that continues.
How much was the ballast affecting things? I know it was only, in quotes, 15 kilos, but did it have much of an impact?
I think it's about worth a tenth and a half per lap, probably. So, it's in quali, it was really close as well. So without the ballast, it would have been a bit more comfortable, but that's all part and parcel with it. I mean, Angus had the 30 kilos, so he was really on the back foot, but I've got that going into the next round, so.
Yeah, and Branzacs Grand Prix circuit with hills, somewhere perhaps that 30 kilos might matter more than Snetterton.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, the guys at the front of the field, I mean, there's an argument that real drivers aren't as quick as sim drivers, but they're quick, like Sandy, Michael, Al Buncombe, like they're all really quick on the sim as well, so it's not easy.
Which category did term yourself in these days? Because, of course, you came from a bit of Formula Ford before the world's fastest gamer and then back into real-world racing. So which camp do you put your foot in now?
Oh, probably. Well, I haven't got to drive this year, so probably the sim one.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But I'd like to be a real racing driver again one day, definitely.
Sure you will. Now, we go to Branzacs, as you say, you've got to carry that 30 kilos. Do you go there looking for another win, or do you go there for points?
Win. Yeah,
Okay.
my goal going into the series was to win all 5. So that didn't really go too well last week, but we got close. So, yeah, I think the tracks, it's possible to win all the remaining 3 races. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. James, well done. We might speak again next week.
Cheers, David.
Thanks very much. James Baldwin then, our overall race winner, GT3 victor, and with a mighty gap, 23.5 seconds. George Boothby, however, Paul, has been the absolute hero of the day, hasn't he, within GT4, hot lap qualifier, and then coming through to score a win. Really impressive effort by George.
Oh, sensational. Absolutely sensational. To come into a championship where many of the drivers have already experienced a race in these conditions, and George Boothby joins us now actually in the commentary box. So George, first and foremost, race winner. Bet that feels good. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was insane. I did not expect that at all. That's my first ever GT4 race I've done on the game, so I'm just speechless, absolutely speechless.
Now, we didn't see much of you on the broadcast purely because you were so dominant in class. Did you expect that kind of performance coming into this race? I know you said it surprised you, but you must have had an inkling from the pre-qualification rounds.
Yeah, I knew I had good pace, but then in quali, I can't remember who it was who out-qualified me, but I was second in quali by quite a few tenths, and I haven't really practiced like long distant pace either, so I was going into a little bit of the unknown, but started out the race and I got a really lucky start, and I was just being closed down by McIntyre a little bit, and then when I pitted, I thought he stayed out. I thought he's gonna get me. His pace is insane. He's gonna get me, but I think he might have made a mistake in the pit stop or something, because afterwards I came out in front and yeah, just managed to pull away. I don't know how, but
Well, an incredible performance, especially considering, as you say, the lack of experience in GT4s. Now, next weekend, we're going to the Branzacs Grand Prix circuit, and obviously you'll be invited along as a top 10 finisher. How confident are you feeling about that race?
I don't know really. I haven't driven around there in a GT4, but I do love the track though. Like I feel like I've always been quite strong there, so hopefully I can get a good result again. It'll be awesome. And also one quick shout out to Jordan Sherratt or Sherratt. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. He helped me with the setup a lot, so without him, I probably wouldn't have been as quick. So thank you to him.
Fantastic. Yeah, he's a great driver in his own right as well.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
George, this is a multi-class race, obviously, and as you say, you've not driven GT4, so that'll be a new experience in ACC. How did you find racing in traffic against some of these big-name real-world drivers?
I didn't have too many any issues really. There was the odd little dive that might have been cheeky, but apart from that, I don't know, everything just went really smoothly. Maybe I was the lucky one this race and just managed to get away with a lot of it, but. No, it was really cool to just see so many names that you recognise actually on the game with you. It's not like that in-game name, they're not an AI. It's actually them. It's awesome. I absolutely loved it.
Well, you drove absolutely sensationally. You look like you've been in this right from the very beginning. And is this the championship challenge beginning from George Boothby in the very bright-coloured Aston Martin?
I hope so.
Sensational stuff. Well done, George. Thank you for speaking to us today, and best of luck for the Branzacs race next weekend.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. Cheers. Thank you.
Brilliant. David, so there we go. That's 2 incredibly dominant winners for each class, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see plenty more from both of those names during the rest of the season.
Yeah, I really hope so in the case of George Boothby. I mean, the GT4 is a fascinating mix, isn't it? Where you've got the likes of a Niels Naujoks with his great pedigree in sim racing, and you've got hot lap qualifiers coming in and taking the battle to them. Okay, George had a ballast-free car, but his lack of experience of GT4 and Assetto Corsa was certainly not a handicap by any means, and his ability got him through that. James Baldwin, in a sense, you could argue he's on hiding to nothing, because given his sim pedigree, he's expected to win. Oulton Park, the opposition ran him closer, but it could have been a different story here had we not had all those dramas up at turn 2 on the opening lap. And next week he's going to carry 30 kilos on a circuit where the weight will really hurt. So maybe if he did find that as a relatively easy win, it ain't going to be the same in a week's time. So can't wait. Bring it on. Brands Hatch next week will be, as ever, full of drama.
Yes, it will indeed. So everybody at home, as always, our sincere thanks for joining us on this broadcast. If you are a sim racer yourself and you fancy your chances of getting involved, then head over to the SRO Esports website, register for the British GT Esports Championship, and then at 8 a.m. GMT tomorrow, the hot lap qualification sessions will begin. And if you are one of the top 2 drivers per brand that set a lap time, you will be joining our GT4 grid at Brands Hatch for your chance to do a George Boothby and turn up and dominate proceedings. So thank you to everybody behind the scenes, as always, for setting up this incredible championship. Thank you to our drivers, and certainly, again, thank you very much to you, sir, Mr. David Addison.
Paul, it's been great fun, and look forward to another mega race at Brands Hatch next weekend. I think there are still 1 or 2 scores to settle. There are people whose points tallies aren't what they want, and we know that the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit is pretty unforgiving. So in a week's time, the drama will continue.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And everybody, this has been the British GT Esports Championship from Snetterton. And until next time, we'll see you same time, same place next Sunday at Brands Hatch. Take care. Bye-bye.